Hi, it's Tim and Amy with Go With Less. Today we're going to cover our top tips for Berlin, Germany. So Berlin had more free things to do than any of the 10 cities that we visited during our European tour. This is an amazing city. It's big. There's just lots of action here and lots of stuff to do.
Yes, and not just free, but also very affordable. If you want more Berlin after this, we posted 4 or 5 videos of our each day in Berlin. We had 5 nights in Berlin, so I will put links to those down below in the notes. So please stay tuned, and we're coming up with Berlin.
We started our time in Berlin at the Reichstag Building. This was the first thing we did when we got there. And it was sort of fortuitous that we did this because we got a great view of the city. So the Reichstag Building is actually a government facility where legislative activity happens, but on top there is a dome, and this dome allows you to go up. You have to have a reservation to get into the facility, meaning you have to provide an ID and things like this. We don't know if you have to, how ahead of time you have to do it. However, Amy went ahead and provided all of our information before we arrived.
Like a month in advance.
We had a timed entry. We showed up, and in addition to it being free, they also have a free audio guide that walks you through as you walk around this dome, all the things that you're seeing throughout the city. So just a great introduction to the city.
It's offered in many languages. It's free, and it's a beautiful view. We took public transportation deeper into former East Berlin and took a tour of a former Stasi prison. We didn't have a lot of knowledge about communism era Berlin, and so this was a really deep education for us. The Stasi would be the ultra secret police force in communist Berlin, East Berlin, and the prison is where they would detain people for questioning for maybe a couple hours to a decade, and it was awful conditions. We learned about a really dark chapter in history here, and we took a tour. We took an a tour with an English-speaking guide. They offer 3 of them a day, and you just show right up. We paid $14 for the 2 of us to take that tour. If you're on an Uber budget, or if you missed the timing for the English-speaking tour, they do have these huge exhibit halls that were very interesting that we could have spent hours and hours at the exhibits, and those are completely free. So you can please go to the Stasi Museum no matter what. Some of the tour guides, by the way, were former prisoners, so that would have been interesting. Our guide was excellent. He wasn't a prisoner, so it's kind of the luck of the draw. And then they offer tours in German more frequently. So this was low cost or free.
One of the other free activities that we did was we visited the Life in the GDR Palace of Tears Museum. And so the Palace of Tears is actually what they call the train station. This museum happens to be at the train station where East Germany and West Germany would actually meet. So if you had relatives that were on the other side of the wall, then this was a place where you could go and spend some time with your family, or you could meet up with people that were on the other side of the wall. And so the museum that's there, it's rather small, however, it's very impactful, and there's a ton of information in this very small museum about what life was like during this period whenever the 2 Germanys were separated.
And I'm gonna say, even though I didn't think of it being small, so it's funny that you thought it was small. I didn't think of it being small, but there is so much there, and like every exhibit you want to take a look at. So it's not just something to breeze right past like a giant art museum potentially. This is something to spend time with each exhibit because there are stories behind each one of them. There was a lot of multimedia with things to listen to, conversations and things like that, and first-person stories. So I did not find it to be a small museum, but maybe it just because it was so chock full of information. One thing I really liked in there is that like the border crossing, they had an exhibit of the border crossing guards station and what the people would be coming through. I don't know. I thought that really made an impact on me.
Yep, same for me. Another free museum that we visited was the Topography of Terror, which is about the SS during World War II, how they come to power, and how their reign of terror existed during World War II. So it's actually at the former SS headquarters, and so it's right at the Berlin Wall. It's a very impactful museum as well, and there's a lot to see here. This is a large museum with just a lot of things to see, and again, a very impactful place about what was going on that brought the Nazi regime into power.
And we're using the word impactful a lot. I think we need to find another word, but I don't know what else really fits, because we were given an in-person education about life in Berlin, life during Nazi Germany, life during communism. They've done an unbelievable job of providing this education, often for free. So the Topography of Terror, as Tim mentioned, is also free. So this is not the happiest, happy-go-lucky experience throughout Germany, but it is something that's very important to experience. And like I said, and we keep saying, it's extremely impactful. So I hope that this doesn't cause people to shy away from that. With that being said, I'm going to go into the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe, if we're going to talk about impactful. So this is I don't know, maybe it's a memorial that has an art exhibit feel to it. It's quite large, something that you are going to want to spend some time in. They do have a museum below ground. This was our 5th city that we had visited, and we had spent an enormous amount of time in Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, including Berlin, in all 5 cities. So we didn't have time to do underneath this memorial, but there is another free museum where you can follow some Holocaust, I guess, I'm not sure if it's just survivors or people from the Holocaust. So we would have liked to do that. If we had an extra day, we would have done that for sure. Moving on to something a little cheerier. We did a lot of free walking tours, maybe 12 or 13 in the 10 cities we visited in Europe. One of the best 2 we did was in Berlin. And it is just based upon how good the tour guide was, but he was excellent. And we had a very comprehensive history of the city in that 2 or 3 hour walking tour. So we would highly recommend it. That was a Sandemans tour. And also we visited the Berlin Philharmonic for a free classical music concert. So make sure you check out their website, and maybe you can hit up a free concert as well.
There are plenty of free tours that cover a wide range of topics. None of them seem to be dedicated to street art. We had some friends that joined us on our trip to Berlin, and they really wanted to have a dedicated street art tour. And so we paid $33 that was for both of us, for a street art tour. That was an amazing tour. Some of the free tours that did go around the city had an element of street art, but none were exclusively street art. It was a good tour. We really enjoyed it, and it ended at a street art museum, which is free. So if you wanted to just have a piece of street art, you can certainly find a tour that might have that, and then you'd want to be sure and go to the street art museum. And there was an amazing amount of street art to see here, so we really enjoyed this tour.
We did. We love the idea of bike tours and Segway tours. Segway tours, unfortunately, are a little out of our budget for this trip. We've done them before. If you have the budget for it, do a Segway tour. As dorky as it looks, you will be addicted. Fun. We've never known anyone to take a Segway tour who didn't want to own a Segway on the other side of that tour. But we did a bike tour, and despite it being in freezing rain, it was still excellent, and it was a splurge for us. It was $70 for the 2 of us. It was a pretty long day, but it let us do quite a bit of sightseeing. So we passed a lot of the different sites throughout Berlin, and it was just a good way to wrap up our trip. So I would recommend, if you have a little extra money in the budget, where I would recommend spending it would be on some sort of like a bike or Segway tour. We really enjoyed ours.
Yep. Even though we covered a lot of the same ground on the bike tour that we had covered previously in our walking tour, etc., this was still a good tour to have, even after we'd already seen a lot of the sites. So we would recommend this highly.
I think it's because it filled in blanks for us, and this was at the end, so we kind of had a good overview, and then it just filled in little holes and pockets.
I am 100% positive there is plenty of amazing food in Berlin. However, we didn't experience much amazing food while we were there. Primarily, we're going to blame it on our location. So we were in Mitte, which is M-I-T-T-E, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, which is sort of in the center of all the activity, and there may be even great places around. However, it didn't seem like our hotel was close to convenient, affordable, good options. We did have a few meals that were okay, but none that we're going to point out and say that you have to go here, but I know there's good food in Berlin.
And we are planning to go back and stay in a residential neighborhood to take advantage of more of that local feel. So stay tuned for a video in the next couple of years about that. But as far as food in Berlin, all we're going to say is eat the fresh pretzels. They're delicious. If you liked our video today, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe below. If you leave a comment or give any advice, we would love that in the comments. Have you been to Berlin? Do you know affordable affordable, keyword, affordable, delicious. That's another keyword. Affordable, delicious food in Berlin. We are very open to this because we will be going back again at some point. And if you have friends who are going to Berlin or who may be interested in going to Berlin, we would love if you shared this video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, we're going to have all the links in the notes below.
Thanks.